Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to, I just messed my whole intro up. I'm on a mission to help people deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you listen, like, subscribe, and share our podcast on all of your social media listening platforms. Also, make sure you guys check us out at our YouTube, our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Again, that's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, where not only will you find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but you'll also find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as two other podcasts that I have up right now. The Earn and Earth podcast is the podcast I do with my brother, and we have a Bible study podcast that my sister does that is also available on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube. So make sure that you guys are checking that out. Also, excuse me, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. So our product of the week for this week is our Purpose Journal and our Purpose Planner, because I believe that we need to journal in order to keep track of where we've been and where we are in our lives, as well as plan for our future. So you guys can get your copy of our Purpose Journal and our Purpose Planner from Amazon. If you're watching this or you're listening to this on your podcast, go straight to the descriptions, and in the description you'll find the information to purchase our product of the week, as well as some other things. There's a lot of great information in the description. So make sure that when you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on your podcast device, make sure that you go to the descriptions to check it out and to hit those links to find out more of the things that we have going on. But today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a formal guest, old friend, new friend. It's been some time, but
yes,
Miss Aisha, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
No problem, no problem. Could have been anywhere with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners. We definitely appreciate it. And it's been a while. It's
It
been a
has
while.
been.
So we met oh about 3 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
about 3 years ago, right at the beginning of this podcast journey that we both were on at that time. Definitely, we have been through some changes in the in the podcast,
Yeah.
but that was where we met. We started out at the same time, in this space, and kind of went from there. I think I had you on. Um,
hmm
did I do your podcast? I think I
You
did.
did mine too. Yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did
And then
mine.
I had you on, and I had you and Kashif on,
hmm
because we did it. All three of us on at the same time, and that was had to be in the first season of the
It
podcast.
absolutely was because I think didn't we go live or something?
I think we did some lives too. Yeah,
Yeah, we
we did a
did.
couple things.
Yeah.
We did a couple things. But definitely, you have been through some transitions
hmm
that time. Well, let's start with the podcasting, right? So we started off, we met in the podcast world. And at that
Yeah.
time, I think you were already doing a blog. You decided to turn the blog into a podcast. How was that at that time?
Yeah. So like I had a blog, um, and it was called the Black Girl Blogger. And then I turned it into a podcast called Conversations with the Black Girl Blogger. And it was kind of just getting a feel for what the podcast world was all about. A lot of the people that I had on had like varying topics. So we talked about being foster parents. Um, there was some discussions about plastic surgery. It was just a variety of different topics from um, mostly Black people.
Mm.
And so, kind of given their perspective coming from our world and um, how we view things a little bit different, especially the plastic surgery conversation. Um, I think a lot of times it's glamorized. And through the discussion that I had, like it gave, it was very raw and uncut about, what you go through for plastic surgery. And so from there, um, and through some of, well, I guess I would say it evolved from the David Shans when I was, listening to um, his YouTubes and his lives and his phone calls. And so I switched and became the Color of Influence podcast.
Mhm.
And my focus for the podcast was to find different people who were doing amazing things for our community that maybe people didn't hear of. And so I had some startup businesses that, had made their way into Target. I had Goody Foods on, which they sell vegetables, canned vegetables in grocery stores. Um, I talked to a couple of doctors, and I tried to just bring awareness to a lot of things that our community is great about doing, and allowing people to tell their stories on how they got to where they were. So
Yeah, yeah. And so I remember having a conversation even when you were going to change the name. I remember us
hmm
talking about that. Definitely. And shout out to David. David Shands. Still follow him.
yeah,
Still I'm in the morning meetup and things of that nature. So definitely appreciate him for even, that like I said, that's where we started. I think
yeah,
I took the very first um, podcast challenge that he did. Well, I was in that very first one, and
yeah. I think that's how we all connected
yeah,
from that. Yeah,
yeah, and so started me on this journey, and now not only do I have one podcast, but now I got two
yeah,
that I'm currently hosting myself. But like I said, I was doing the one uh, podcast with my brother, so we was doing three. Hopefully, we're gonna start that one back up soon when he get ready. And then he wants to do his own podcast. And so, yeah, so just been on, on the journey. Definitely, it's been an amazing journey. You know,
Yeah.
so along the way, definitely being connected. Starting this journey together and following each other and sharing space on each other's podcast. Um, there was a change. Let me put it that
Yeah.
there was a change in content
Yeah.
one day, and I'm watching your, we're connected, so we watch your stuff when things are posted and things change. And then there was a considerable change in content, and I was like, oh, okay, and so I started to follow you on that journey in the change of content. And so tell us a little bit about what that change was and the reason why the change, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah. So in 2022, February 2022, I found out I had breast cancer. Um, I immediately, had to do a bunch of tests and labs, and um, my team was amazing. I was blessed to have a great gynecologist who, prior to her finding my cancer, her doctor had found her cancer.
Mhm.
And so she referred me to all of her doctors, her breast doctor, her breast surgeon, her oncologist, and everybody got moving very quickly. So I know exactly how blessed I am just because of things that I found out after the fact. But um, so in March of 2022, March or April of 2022, I started chemo. And so I did chemo from April to August. And then I had double mastectomy um, with reconstruction. And so they take out all of your breast tissue to make sure that there is no cancer or anything in it. I got it biopsied and it was clear. Um, just for my own peace of mind, I didn't have to get a double mastectomy because I only had breast cancer on the right side of my breast. But because, it's a personal decision of how
Mhm.
you go about your treatment, I decided to do the double mastectomy and the reconstruction, which included breast implants. And so when they found my cancer, it was invasive ductal carcinoma, HER2 positive, which means that it's not hormone driven. And so after my double mastectomy, you go in and I did some more labs. Thankfully, there was no sign of cancer after, so I didn't have to do radiation, but I did have to do like maintenance drugs for another 6 months after my surgery. And it believe it or not, the whole time through my treatment, I had continued my podcast. Um, I, was interviewing guests. Um, with my, my little headscarf on, my turbans, and um, I did have a visual component to my podcast. So if you ever watched, on YouTube, you could see that there were some changes that were happening.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't actually broadcast it, I guess, until I was done with my treatment. So after I had my double mastectomy surgery, I started to, because I was recording myself throughout my entire treatment. So when I found out from the time that I got my port put in, um, I was documenting, kind of doing like I guess you could say like a visual journal.
Hmm.
So once I knew that I was fine, and that moment, I decided to share my journey, and I was posting um, parts of my treatment. through my social media, through YouTube. Um, and I guess like when something like that happens, your mind shifts, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of think about, okay, so what's important moving forward? And I was extremely exhausted doing the podcast. I was going through chemo, still reaching out to people, still doing all the legwork, still, editing and doing all the things, putting it on my website, putting it on YouTube, putting it on social media. And so it was just very draining. Um, I loved loved doing my podcast, but it was just a lot. And I mean, I know
Yeah, yeah,
we're we're a one person show for the most part.
yeah,
Um, where we are the talent, we're the editor, we're the PR person, we're the administrative assistant. Um, and so I had to let it go. I mean, it was just so taxing. And yeah, so I stopped doing that and I just kind of had to like regroup. Like, okay, moving forward, like what is important to me now? Like, what do I have the capacity to do right now? Because I was kind of stretching myself out. At the time my daughter was turning 2 when I found out. Um, so it was kind of like you got a 2-year old running around. I'm trying to like give her all of whatever I have left. And then, once she goes to bed, I'm recording this podcast and I'm editing and I'm doing all the things. It was just a lot.
yeah, yeah. And this so people. I know when we started, right? And I don't even know if you remember because I think you were in the. So after we did the first thing with David because I actually did the first two, his first two podcast challenges.
Challenge, yeah.
Did the first one and then I just did the second one just because, right? So I'm
Yeah.
doing both of them. And so after that, I created the messenger on Facebook, the messenger
Right.
thread,
Hmm.
and I think at one point we had like maybe 125 people in there, right? All podcasting, all
Yeah.
at the same time, and I know one of the things David said when we first started, he was like, most podcasts don't make it past episode 7.
Yeah.
You know? And when you start doing it and realize it, and I think everybody get excited in the beginning.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I'm doing this thing, and and especially as
Yeah.
if you are able to create it, quickly, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I got my recording software, I got my microphone, I got this and that, I got my logo. You start putting all this stuff together, and everybody's excited, and then you have to do the work. You know,
Hmm.
you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta find the guests, you gotta schedule, all of that, and so it does get taxing,
Yeah.
and so out of everybody that was in that group, um, I don't think it's probably 10 of us that's still podcasting. I don't think.
Yeah. I
I
don't
haven't
think
reached
so
out to
either.
everybody, but yeah,
I followed a couple of people's like actual podcasts
mhm,
and I haven't seen like episodes. So I don't think
yeah,
that unless they change and are doing something different, I don't think so. And to be honest, like I was shocked that I even had like 2 years of the podcast.
mhm,
Because I stopped in, was it 2024? 2023.
okay,
So I stopped in 2023. Um, but I had um, banked so many episodes.
right,
So when I knew that I was going to start going into treatment, I was like recording twice a week because I'm like, I know in a couple of months, like this is not going to be a possibility.
right,
So I just started like being real aggressive with, reaching out to people and getting the recordings completed. And I think maybe only 3 guests that I interviewed after like I had started chemo. So I was being proactive about it and
Mhm.
wanted to keep going. Because I was getting to a point where I was impressed with the people who were accepting to be on my podcast,
Yeah.
like the Goody Foods, and then another person was African Ancestry, the doctor who was the co-founder of that. She was on, and then I'm just like, I am really like doing something here. Like I'm impressed with myself, and then God was like, no, this is not really what you're supposed to be doing. Like you might like it, but it's not the path that I have laid out for you. So
Mm.
I had to just listen and be obedient and just let it go.
Right, right. And especially it being as much involved as it is, there definitely is a higher level of stress that comes with it to make sure that you keep going and keep
Yeah,
being able to put out quality episodes and have quality guests. And so definitely understand, when it comes to stress, period, you want to manage it correctly. And then when you
yeah,
already have other stuff going on, it's like, all right, look, I ain't got time for that. You know what I mean?
right.
So I was watching. So as I mentioned earlier, when you started, I guess it was to me. It was I thought I was like right day to day, right? So it was after the,
Yeah,
but so to me it's like
yeah,
at the moment, and so which I'm glad that you did it that way. It probably was a smart way to do it before uh, for various reasons, for your
yeah.
own personal and privacy
Mhm.
during the transition. And then now, like you said, you waited till you were comfortable, you were okay. Then it's like, all right, now I'll tell, people what I've been through. But I seen it then, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm following, this the journals as you're putting them up, and I'm like, wow, I think I reached out to you, at that time,
Yeah, you did.
and man, I don't know how supportive I could be. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm here in Chicago. I don't know what I could do, but I did feel, that I wanted to let you know that, I was on the journey with you, however that looked like. You know what I
Yeah, and I mean I appreciated that. And it's I could say it's funny now because I'm done, but
mean?
um just to have everybody like reaching out to me and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe it. Like, are you okay? Like, how are you still working?" Um because like in my stories I would be posting like current,
Hmm.
and then on my page I'm posting previous.
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that was from months ago." So I'm kind of, thank God, like I'm past that. Um, but it definitely, the reason why I decided to even post and like start recording was because I couldn't find very many Black organizations that weren't virtual
Hmm.
that could support me. I didn't know anybody personally who had gone through breast cancer that is here in Houston with me. My aunt did, but our journeys were very different,
Hmm.
just because of the location of where she's at and her age. And then just, cancer is different for everybody.
Hmm.
So, her procedure was different. So it really wasn't a lot that we could have like discussed. And then technologies have changed.
Yeah.
So, when she had her treatment, now things are different. And so I started going on social media and just typing in Black breast cancer. It was literally that, I'm like, I need to really figure out like where this community is. And so I found a couple of organizations, one in particular for the breast of us. And on their social media, like on their Facebook page, they would reference different members' Instagram. So I started following those people's Instagrams and like going back, to their beginning of their journey and learn like so much just from watching their videos. And then I would message them, and ask advice or say like, here are my options for this surgery. Um, is this thorough? Like, was I told the appropriate things? Um, and I was able to get so much support from these women. Like, it was insane. And so I felt like it was my duty to do the same, to record my journey so that somebody else could see, like, you're not alone. You don't have to be 60 or 50 or 70 to get breast cancer these days. I was in my 40s. Um, and so there are girls as young as 20, in their 20s that are getting breast cancer. And just the amount of things that I've learned through social media has been like life changing. So I really felt like it was important that I pay it forward and do the same for somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that's important now and even then, and that's why I was reached out to you even in the midst of what I was watching, because as a male, as a man, and then I know that men can get breast cancer too.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to
Yeah.
point that out because that was
Yeah.
something I learned that I didn't know, and I was like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that was new.
Yeah.
But as men, as mates, as husbands, as brothers, we have family that goes through these changes, and recently had a loved one that went through similar, I would say the same thing that you went through,
Yeah.
and I didn't find out to maybe it could have been a year. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I just know one
Yeah.
day everything was cool, and we don't talk as much. And then I just remember seeing one day their picture on Facebook, and they have no hair, and I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, when did that happen? And then start asking some questions, and they was like, oh well, they went through this and whatever, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
and they were on the other side of it too. Um, but to be able to watch, that journey and kind of take that journey with you, I think it was important for me as a man to be able to watch it, because not only, like you said, you were going through it and you were getting information from other people, but now I'm learning from you,
Yeah.
and hopefully, don't personally have to, have a loved one that's close enough to me that I have to hold their hand through that journey. But
Right.
if I did, I at least have a reference now to be able to say,
Yeah.
okay, Aisha mentioned this, I can kind of look for this might happen, and how can I
Mm-hmm.
support her, in this way. And so I was very appreciative of you sharing that journey with you. But now we're on the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
Now we're on the other side of it. And so what does Aisha day to day look like now? So we're not podcasting no more.
No, we're
We're
not.
past the health journey in that phase of it, and so now we're
Mm-hmm.
here. So what is Aisha up to now?
So now, I feel like a lot of people, when they go through something traumatic, you find this like your path to wellness changes, right? So some people start working out a lot, some people become dietitians and they share like how food changed their lives. And not that I'm not doing those two things, but through my recovery, I really got big into yoga. Um, it was one of the things that um, it didn't make me feel weak. If I tried to like walk and run and lift weights and do the things that I used to do, I there was limits. My strength was gone, my endurance was gone. I just felt terrible. So I started doing yoga, and like slowly started to feel comfortable with this new body, right? Because I think that a lot of people feel like when you say, "Oh, you ring the bell and you're cancer free," that's it, and that is the beginning of the rest of your life. Um, so I suffered from kidney disease, um, because the chemo killed my kidneys, and just lots of hormonal changes. Because when you get chemo, it literally kills everything in your body, the good and the bad. And so, in just trying to get my body regulated, meditating, yoga, just doing different breathing techniques, it really was healing for me. Um, and so I decided to get my yoga certification. Um, I would like to, once I'm finished in April, um, I want to offer classes to breast cancer survivors, to those who are going through treatment, and just really focus on helping people understand that the commercial part of yoga is so watered down. Um, you know, we in our community,
Mhm.
we don't feel that yoga is for us because when we see classes advertised or we see pictures of people in their yoga outfits, no one looks like us. And you could be black in those ads, but you don't have the body of a normal person, right?
Mhm.
And so I want people to understand in our community that it is for us. It is very affordable. You don't have to go to these studios and spend, hundreds of dollars every month, to do something that should be accessible to everybody because of the benefits. You know, people want to make money off of it, and that's fine. Um, but I don't think that that's the place for you you really want if you really want the real benefits of it. I've been to some classes where just the sheer fact of me being black was kind of like, I'm not really sure how to, and this is not someone saying it, it's definitely the vibe that I got. Like, I'm not really sure how to like help you modify this move based off of your body type. Um, so it was kind of like, you don't feel comfortable a lot of times. And being in this space now, I see a lot of social media posts about people, um, telling stories about going to yoga studios, how they don't feel comfortable. Even instructors, talking about how they have to deal with lots of microaggressions, as the instructor in these studios. And so I want it to be accessible to everybody with a focus, obviously, in breast cancer survivors. Um, and so I've dived a lot into the advocacy space. I work with a lot of nonprofits to promote breast cancer awareness, to promote prevention, um, to promote all different types of treatment options. And so, one of those options I want is to be my yoga class, as a service to them, because it is something that you can really tailor to yourself and make it your own and still get the same benefits as someone who, you know, is in a yoga studio with all the bells and whistles, that are really not always necessary. So Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. My company name is Surviving with Wellness, um, because I am a breast cancer survivor. Just trying to make my way, through this aftermath of being done with treatment. Um, and yeah, like I'm really excited about where my journey is going to go with this. Um, and I think that, being having the experience of being a survivor and
Mhm.
having that relatability with the people who will be in my classes is going to really be beneficial. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be. I ain't gonna say going to be. It's already amazing, because the person that's leading it is amazing, and
Thank you.
I like I said, I'm here in Chicago, so I don't know what I can do, but but I do got family down in Houston, so maybe I'll be down there one day, to definitely lend my support in whatever way that I can. Um,
Yeah.
but I really want to have you on, because we were cool, when we first met, everything was cool, and then, like I said, to be able to take that journey with you, and to
Yeah.
be able to sit here and have this conversation now. Um, on a happy note. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we made
Exactly.
it. We made it. You know what I'm saying? And not only do we made it, but now we're doing something, to make a difference in those who may still be challenging. Have some
Hmm.
challenges and things of that nature. Which I believe that there is a part of us that God allows us to go through certain things. And I always say that, once we become the victor, it then becomes our duty, should I say, to go back and help those who may still be victims of whatever circumstance that they're going through.
Yeah.
And so, with you making it to the other side, and now you be able to go and say, "Let me show you the way," to those who may still be, having challenges, and those who may not have a challenge but still can take advantage of the
Yeah.
services
And I
that
mean, like,
organization.
obviously my classes are going to be um focused mostly on survivors, but it's really, I'm only going to do beginner classes because I want people to understand that you don't have to do all those other things um, that you see other people doing. I mean, just because I had surgery, I'm limited. My upper body is limited um, in some of the things that I can do. And it doesn't make me less of a yoga instructor because I can't do a handstand or I can't, balance, my head or on my arms or, anything like that. And so that's the part that I want. My yoga teacher, um, who's doing our teacher training, um, really emphasizes that we need more people of color being yoga instructors
Mhm.
because there are just some people that are not comfortable diving into our community to say, hey, y'all can do this. Come on. Matter of fact, don't come on. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to show you how accessible it is to you. Which is why I'm really focusing more on like the virtual
Mhm.
classes. Um, so my goal is to start doing YouTube lives, just a free class, as like an intro for people to really see like it's really not that bad. You can do this. I mean, I've been doing virtual classes as a part of my practicum with my mom and some of my friends, and we only do one day a week for about hour, maybe 45 minutes, and both of them are always talking about how much better they feel after. And that's just one day a week for 45 minutes. And so, you know, it does have lots of healing benefits. And I'm excited to just share that with people. My husband is also, even though he's in a different room, he's on virtually, doing the class with them. And so it's not a woman thing. It's not a young thing, it's not a white person thing. Um, it's not, it's for everybody, and I mentioned to you that I had kidney disease, and I guess from October to January, I've practiced yoga more frequently. Of course, changed like some of my eating habits, and my renal doctor, the last time that I saw him, he's like, your levels are going up. And I'm not really sure what it is that you're doing, but you need to keep doing it. And he's Middle Eastern. And I said, honestly, I've just been increasing the amount of times that I've done yoga. And he was like, I get it. So, without saying like anything, he kind of understood like you are healing yourself from the inside out because you learn to take care of yourself differently
Mm-hmm.
when you engage in a consistent yoga practice. And I'm not by any means saying that I'm like a monk or anything like that because I'm definitely not. But sometimes it's not about the food that you eat. Sometimes it's not about, you know, the recreational things that you do or don't do. Sometimes it's about your mind. And, when we start to clear out that negative energy, a lot of things start to happen when you start to heal your own self. Um, so, again, that's why I would love to just share this practice with people.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I can't wait to
Yeah.
get it really, really going and ready to share with the whole public. I definitely will be keeping my eye out, and we're going to make sure that we put the information in the description so that when everybody's watching this, they can go to it and be able to take part. So Aisha, I thank you so very much again for being on. Um, I thank you for allowing us to follow your journey.
Yeah.
Is it still up? Is all of all of that still
It's
up?
still up on both pages. So I have too many Instagram pages, to be honest. So I have just like that, DAT underscore, I'm a survivor. Um, Most of the stuff on there is about my breast cancer journey, family stuff, but mostly like breast cancer things on there. And so, yeah, that is all on there. But it is best to go to my YouTube channel, The Color of Influence, um, where all of those videos are posted. And you can get there by just going to thecolorofinfluence.com. And for yoga, you can go to Survive, VIBE, the letter N, with wellness. And that is on all platforms. So I'm not even going to say all because I'm just going to try to stick with Instagram for now and YouTube. So you can go to Instagram and YouTube for that. I'm going to keep it simple. Um, it'll probably migrate to Facebook at some point, but yeah, I'm just slow rolling into it. I'll just link everything to Facebook. It's just easier.
All right, all right. So I was going to say, leave us with a word of advice or motivation or something like that, and share us with your social media handles. But you already shared the media handles. But I do want you to have the last word. So I would like for you to leave us with word of advice, if however you feel, on your
Okay.
mind. And so I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. To my audience, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure that you guys are checking us out on our website, the dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, because our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So you can go there and find out different things about me, what I have going on, podcast, and even there is a booking form there to book me to come out and to be a to possibly speak at your school or organization or facilitate a workshop or something like that. Make sure that you guys go there. Again, dealhealfulfill.org is our website. Make sure you guys are checking us out. Also, go to ebooksbyejames.com to check out the ebooks that I have available there. We have a ebook called From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook. We have the 4 Core, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father. That ebook we actually discuss on the podcast, the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where we talk to other girl dads like myself, or sometimes even daughters. The daughters come on and we have a nice conversation about the daddy-daughter relationship in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So make sure you guys go check out that ebook and check out the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Again, go to ebooksbyejames.com to check out the ebooks that we have available there. Also, our podcast merch is up. We have our inspirational t-shirt line at deal, the number 2, healtees.com, deal2healtees.com, where we have several inspirational t-shirts available, as well as our podcast merch, which is our podcast our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. There is one for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with a beautiful picture of me and my daughter when she was much younger than that she is now. She's 21 now, almost going to be 22. By the time this come out, she probably will. I think she'll be 22 at that time. But also the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast merch shirt is also available. And last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been able to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, just everything surrounding forgiveness and what it means and how important it is and to have in the world. And so these virtual they're virtual, they're absolutely free. You can go to forgivenessmission.com to register for the next free virtual workshop, or to go to Eventbrite and search for Forgiveness Workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. Again, it's absolutely free, but the information is priceless. So whenever you're listening to this, either one is coming up or one just ended. So make sure you guys go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. And I thank you guys for that. Aisha, again, thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I definitely will make sure that I put all the links in the description so that we have it for our listeners to be able to follow you and to keep up with you and to, be able to share in the new venture that we are now of coming up on. And so with that being said, I want you to have the last word. So the floor is yours.
So I would just like everybody to know that, the only way that you're going to be stuck in your circumstance is if you allow yourself to be stuck. We go through lots of different trials and tribulations, and the only way that we make it through is by following God's path, right? So, I've been into yoga for a very long time and kept kind of like moving away from it, but somehow I would always go back to it. And now to be able to really dive into it, I know now that God was telling me, like, no, like, come on back. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like, I don't know why you keep fighting me. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And so when we listen to God and we follow his path and we don't fight it and we embrace it, and maybe you don't know where it's going to lead you, but just continue to follow him. He's going to lead you in the right direction. So always put God first and just follow his path and don't question it. Embrace the scary, the unknown, and just go with it.
All right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.